I'm going to get started. So my name is Kana. I'm a membership clerk here with Gsuite, and I'm going to teach you how to use Google Slides specifically, but we're also going to talk about Google Drive, and I'm going to walk you through signing up for an email or a Gmail address. My pronouns are they, them, and we're going to start over here. Because the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a Google account. Many of you probably already have a Gmail address or a Google account. This is just for those of you who don't. I'm just going to show what that is. So if you just go to Google and click create account, this is where you'll get this. So we're going to say slide test Gsuite slide test Gsuite.org. We're going to put in a password. Okay. And then for all of you, you're welcome to post comments and questions into the chat. I see that someone on Facebook is looking for the link to Zoom. I'll make sure a moderator or someone else is able to get that link to you. But it may be a moment. If you're not able to get that link, you can also go to our website, gsuite.org, click on this, and then you can click Join Webinar in Progress. Okay, we're not going to do the phone. Okay. So you can read some of these agreement things. Some of it is important to know, but we're not going to worry about most of it. So this is a brand new account that I've created, and I did it like this so that way it would look nice and clean. And then there's going to be these 9 little dots, and when you are on desktop, this is how you navigate to all of your Google Suite apps, such as Slides, your Google Drive, Google Docs, etc. 2 weeks ago, I taught Intro to Google Docs, so we did the same part. So the first thing I'm going to point out is your Google Drive, which is right here. I'm mousing over it. We'll explore that a little bit more. It'll be a little bit nicer once we have some files to actually look at. But we're going to go into Google Slides, which is if we scroll down a little bit more. You can also just type in Google Slides and it will go to the same page. And here we are. And it's going to pop up some options because we're a new account. So it's going to offer this tour. I'm going to click through it just so you see what it says. So it talks about you can use some of their templates. Their templates are free. You don't pay them if you use it. They're free to use. You can also find other templates and import them. I have not imported a template before, so I don't know how well it does it. So if you've used Microsoft PowerPoint in the past, Google Slides is sort of a stripped down version of that with some added online collaboration features that is common to all of the Google apps. So we're actually going to use this wedding one. Now I kind of wish I would have done the portfolio because it has some cool pictures, but we'll see how that works. And because it's loading this and there's a number of items, objects such as the images and whatnot, it may take a second to load the template. So this says Wendy and Barry. Don't know them. We're going to say instead, Gsuite anniversary. Our anniversary event, I believe we do it in November, but I don't remember the exact date. So we're just going to say November. Actually, you know what? Better one. Gsuite summer kickoff. Because we actually have a summer kickoff coming up. It's going to be digital, but there's a lot of really cool things, especially for kids. So you can check that out on our calendar. And I believe May 30th, I'm sure one of my coworkers will correct me in the chat if May 30th is not correct, May 30th, 2020. So we're making a fake slideshow for a real event is what I have just decided to do. So these templates are pretty fun, but you can still do a lot of editing just like with Google Slides. There's some limitations for how I use Google Slides. I haven't seen a lot of these specific limitations for me. There's some differences, like especially with animations, word art, stuff like that, that's not going to be available in Google Slides. But I would say for the basics of what you're looking for, all of it's there and it's all pretty usable. So we're going to have this next slide, our story. So I don't remember any of these dates for DoSpace, so I know that we opened in 2015. DoSpace opens. Also, if you've never seen this Lorem Ipsum thing, it's basically fake Latin that is used in graphic design as placeholder text. So it shows you what the text looks like without any actual meaning to it. So that's what that is. So DoSpace opens in 2015. What's another great event? I just thought of one. 2018. Kana becomes a staff member. It's a really important event in our history. Perfect. These other dates we're not going to worry about. And then what do we want to put here? We'll say Omaha Gives. That's today. So you can donate to DoSpace or other nonprofits by going to Omaha Gives and checking us out. I did not actually plan to promote all these things. They're just coming to my head. So go donate. But there will be more information on Omaha Gives website, and we probably have some stuff about Omaha Gives on our social media, but so you can definitely check that out as well. So these images, love these images. I'm gonna actually show you replacing these images because the format's really cool. And I'm gonna use our DoSpace Flickr account to do it. But the first thing I wanted to do was sort of check in with all of our attendees, see if you had any questions so far. You can submit questions throughout the entirety of the presentation. So you can either submit questions by messaging in the chat, and I'd recommend doing all panelists and attendees. The reason for that is it's defaulted to all panelists, so other attendees might not see your questions, so I'll have to repeat them. The other thing you can do is submit to Q&A, and I'll actually get this little pop-up that comes up whenever a question is in Q&A. If I don't want to answer it right away, I'll just leave it there and answer it later. So if you have questions throughout this, if you have something specific you really wanted to learn, you can ask those questions now, but we will keep going. So probably the most unique feature about Google Slides is going to be that collaborative feature, and we'll sort of show off what that looks like in just a moment. But I wanted to show this image replacement thing because it's actually something that I think confuses some folks. So I'm going to go to dospace.org, and we're going to go all the way down, and we have a Flickr account. This is all of our public photos, and a lot of staff use this too, from a really cool events. So I don't know what any of these events are off the top of my head. This is perfect. This is cute. So it's gonna make me save the photo. That's okay. Huh. Maybe it won't let me save the photo. That certainly was not what I was looking for. So I'm just going to go DoSpace. See, I thought I could save a photo when I checked that earlier, but it did not let me do it then. It's okay. There's so many photos on the internet of DoSpace, so we'll just take one of those. So I'm going to do copy image. Oftentimes you'll actually need to save the image to your computer and then re-upload it. But it kind of depends on the copyright and some other things. So I'm now going to click paste. And now it's asking these things. Interesting. I must already have this on my home computer. That's okay. The other thing I can do is I can physically drag the image because I'm in Chrome right now. This would not work if you were using Safari or other things. That's a feature in Chrome, and it's letting me do all that. So now you can replace the image directly. I have actually just forgot in my mind how to do it, but it's okay, because we are just going to crop it. It's very wide. Perfect. So now we've cropped it, and we don't like this person's shoes, but I'll probably fix that in a moment. And let's do that. And I want to crop it again. We want him in the frame. We're going to sacrifice them. It's okay. They're okay with being sacrificed. Okay. So now I'm going to, crop was unnecessary. So a lot of using Google Slides and honestly other things is being very finicky. I would say I've had an experience when people are trying to make slides in PowerPoint, Google Slides, and they're just very impatient with it. And honestly, what I'd have to say is if you don't know exactly how to do all the options, like directly replacing an image, it's just going to take time. And you really do have to just finick with it, play around with it, figure out what works with you. I'm just going to stretch this. It's going to warp the photo, but you can't even tell that the photo's warped. You just can't tell. Some of our staff could probably tell because they'd be like, that's a warped photo. So yeah, now it's perfect. We don't know what these other photos are here for. There's a dog. Dogs are great. Hotel, wonderful. So now I wanted to show some of the presentation. So right now, I have my Mac set to have an extended desktop. So basically the screen you're seeing right now on my screen, in addition to that, this right here, what's showing here is also on my computer. It's like, let's say I want to move this window all the way over. And now it's over here. And the reason I wanted to show this was sort of show the presentation side of it. I really only needed a few things. And now we are going to click View, Present. Okay. And now I'm actually going to change my camera so you can see it a little better. Okay. So it might look a little bit weird. I just wanted to show sort of the logistics of actually presenting it on another screen. So this is one option. Another option is having a separate desktop that's streaming. That's a little more difficult than just having an extended desktop and then where you're presenting off to, whether it's another monitor, so a secondary monitor, or it's a TV or something like that. It's usually easier just to have that extended desktop where you can just pull the window. And one thing I want to note is my mouse is currently on my main screen, which means when I click and whatnot, it's not going to actually change the PowerPoint. So, and you won't be able to, or actually, no, you should be seeing this as well. So you can see me, I can edit this Google slide while this one's still presenting. But if I move my mouse back over, now it's over here, and I have to click. So basically your mouse is not active on a screen when you're doing this dual monitor thing until you've clicked on that screen once. And now that I've clicked there, when I click space, it goes to the next image where it says our story, Gsuite opens, I became a staff member, very, very important era. And then Omaha Gives, which is today. So where did I click for extended screen? Yeah, I can show that for you. That was actually something I did during the setup for this. So give me just a moment to change my camera back because there's some black lines that show up with that other camera. I don't want to subject you all to that too much. So you may have to move my camera. So on your screen, unless you're on the Facebook stream, you should be able to move the video that has my face on it to a different part of the screen. So you may need to move that. Then you have all of these items up here. It's going to be a little bit different from Windows. And if you send the question of like, how do I do that extended screen to hello@gspace.org, we can get someone who knows Windows better than I to answer that. But I had another staff member show this, and basically once you are displaying someone, I think you can do it before, you have this option, so you can do use as separate display or mirror built-in display. So I don't actually know what this will do. So mirroring is going to show the exact same screen as my desktop. So right now there's sort of this inception thing happening, and it's a little weird. It's a little weird. I gotta say, it's a little weird. Not a big fan of it. But if I go back and it made everything super duper small on my screen, we are going to use as separate display, which is what I recommend. So, and this is actually the same settings you'll have if you have a secondary monitor. So okay, so in the chat it says that someone raised their hand. So for our purposes, so that raise hand feature in Zoom is really meant more for meetings. So like someone raises their hand so they can have next call on presenting with their camera. If you have a question, feel free to just send it in chat. There's not really anything we do if you raise your hand. It's probably just a button you clicked. But feel free to submit questions throughout. You can also submit questions to the Q&A feature. And there we go. Now, we don't have any questions to that Q&A yet, so yeah. And then the next feature I was going to show was the collaborative features. These are probably the more important ones. Let me see if I can find where... I think my other window disappeared. That is very interesting. It's okay. We'll just share this one. In my testing, I did not have the other window disappear, but I also wasn't changing the display. So the display changing must have deleted that window I had up, that incognito window. Is it really gone? Nope, it's not. Oh, I see what happened. Okay. I'm going to bring this back in to my screen so we can see it again. Thankfully, it made itself a little bit smaller. Not small enough, apparently. Yep, I need to move something there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share this to hello@DoSpace. So that way someone else can actually open it. And it may take my moderator a second to open this. Let's see. And it's still going to say wedding, but that's okay. So I'm sharing that with that. One thing that's really cool with sharing it like that is it's automatically going to give them the permissions to view and edit. I believe I changed that to edit. So if you click share again and you're not sure, it'll show every person you've shared it to. If you do links, you're not going to see the information of like who has access because anyone with the link would have access. I typically recommend not doing the link-based access unless it's commenting only. I would never do it for editing. So basically, I'm going to get rid of that. So editor lets someone change anything about the document except where it is. One thing, so like let's say you have a co-editor and they decide to get angry and delete all your content you worked so hard on. It's actually not deleted. They can't delete it because you own the file. There's, it saves all of your versions of the file, and I'll show you all what that looks like because that's really good to know. And if you made a mistake and you put something in and you want to find an older version of it, Google Slides, all the Google apps will save all versions of a document as long as you haven't physically deleted it. So I can change them to a commenter, an editor. I'm going to change them to a commenter. And so if you have done, so anything with Google Docs, sorry, I did my Google Docs webinar 2 weeks ago, and it both feels like yesterday and a month ago because time does not exist anymore, clearly. So comments actually work a little bit different. So I believe comments are only attached to the slides, but not objects, where in Google Docs, you can attach it to any line or space that's actually in the document itself. So I'm going to be like, what is this? And we're going to make that a comment. And then my moderator, who is on here using our hello at DoSpace thing, can actually respond to the comment. Other things, she won't be able to resolve the comment or delete comments that are not her own. The other thing is if someone deletes a comment or anything like that, there's also a comment history. So even if you have these comments removed, you can always get to them later. Google does not delete anything. They really don't. So I can actually resolve this now being like, okay, we know that we both don't know. So I mentioned earlier that all the versions of a document are saved. And you just click this thing where it says all changes saved. And it's going to show different versions. So it shows this first version, which actually only has comments. You're not going to see anything change on the slideshow itself. Okay. So it's showing all that and then this edit. So there's not a lot there. One thing to note is if you have a document you've been using for a while, especially if multiple people edit it directly, it will be very, very slow to open up the page when you click this, because it really is like, with a PowerPoint, it's very much like you're opening like dozens of PowerPoints at once, and it really is that slow. It's not nearly as slow as opening a dozen PowerPoints at once, but it can take a bit. So just know that, like, if you want to see who made a particular change to the document, it may take you a bit to get there. And so I think I'm going to check in again to see if any of you have questions. My chat actually disappeared, so I haven't seen if there's any new chats. And I don't have any new chats or questions. So if any of you have a Q&A question, or you just want to submit something in chat like, how do I do this? Or does this work? But basically the next thing I'm going to get into is what Google Slides looks like when you're using it in Google Drive. And I'm actually going to go over to this slide. That's fine. And while I am doing this, I'm going to let you all know that if you, my brain is, so this webinar will be recorded. It'll immediately be available on Facebook if you want to rewatch it. An edited version will be available on YouTube at a later time. And it can take anywhere from 2 days to a week for the video to come up. Usually we're pretty quick about it, but it really just depends on when the staff are available to send that. So slide test DoSpace at gmail.com. So I'm sending this over just so we'll see it. Okay. Now we're going to actually go into Google Drive. So I'm going to click out of Google Slides. And like I said before, hello, I am seeing two screens. So I do have two screens up. So that might be what you're seeing. So I have two windows up on this, and then there's the screen over here. So with how I'm sharing my screen right now, if I move this window over here, I can have another window behind me. With any of the windows I put behind me, I don't expect you to be able to read any of it. It's just to show how it logistically works when you're actually presenting up there. So that would be the two screens. The reason I have two windows open is because one of them is in Incognito, so that I can have two accounts open at the same time without them directly interacting with each other. Yeah, so I hope that makes sense with the two screens thing. So what I said before is how you get to all your Google apps is these 9 little boxes or dots or whatever you want to call them. And then you just scroll down to Drive or scroll down further to your other items. How do you do Incognito? Okay, so if I go to a non-Incognito tab, so we're not currently in Incognito, you just click File, New Incognito Window. It may look a little bit different on Windows, but wherever you do a new window, there will be an option for doing New Incognito Window. One thing I want to make very clear is, so let's say like this computer, my supervisor, the person who does our IT admin, could still see like the websites I visit, things like that. Even when I do this, all this does is it keeps Google from saving the data. So that's really all it is Chrome won't save this information, but it's not the same thing as using a proxy. So that's really important to know. It's not a proxy. It's not a VPN. If you want to do proxies or VPNs, you need to actually get those. Incognito, private windows, those are not proxy or VPN. It just keeps your browser from saving the information of what you're doing at that time. So it's not as private as people tend to think it is. The other thing is typically, and let me see if Google changed this actually. So typically each incognito window is a separate item. So I can still be logged in as this account on these two pages and it will remember that, but I believe, nope, it's loading it. Okay. So if you are logged into something on Incognito, all your other Incognito windows will still be on that same thing. I mostly use Incognito just to have a separate Chrome up that's not saving all the things that my primary Chrome window is doing. So I actually use it a lot for presentations, and this is a pretty direct example of when I use it. But other people use Incognito for other things, but just know it doesn't keep your secrets as much as a lot of people think it is, which is why they have that explanation there. So I'm now going to go into Google Drive. And now we have some files to work with, so I can actually show you what's happening. So when you go into Google Drive the first time, it'll just say My Drive. And so it's the quick access is going to be the most recent items that you open up. And then there's some files here. There's always going to be this getting started file. You can keep that or delete it if you want to. And then you're going to have a shared with me section. And I should have received one unless it did not go to the right spot. Let me check something. I must have typed the wrong email. Slide test, that's what I thought I sent it to. Give me a moment, because I want... So I'm wanting to show this, but it already says that. Send an invitation. Huh, that's not working. Okay, so I was going to show you, so any files that are sent to you are supposed to show up in the shared with me drive. So if someone sends you something, it won't show up in your drive by default. You have to actually drag it over here to do that. And I wanted to show that to you. For some reason, it's not working this time. And I'm not sure what it is, if maybe the email server isn't sending or there's some other issue that I'm not aware of. But you can make folders. So basically you can consider your Google Drive to be kind of like a flash drive, of which by default you have 15 gigabytes you can use. Also note that there's limitations on individual file sizes. I want to say it's 20 megabytes, but they may have actually increased that to 30 megabytes or more. So we can make this new folder and we're just going to say slides. So now I'm going to drag my wedding folder over to slides, and it is in its own folder. The other thing you can do that's really cool is you can upload Microsoft PowerPoints and PowerPoint templates up to the side. Okay, give me just a moment. I'm trying to remember what this is called, brand. So DoSpace does not have a branded slides, but UNO does, and I am going to take one of their slides to show one of the things that you can do with PowerPoint, Google Slides, and it's one of its very common uses, almost as common as people actually presenting slides, is making posters. So a lot of people actually do not use PowerPoint or slides or anything like that to present. They're like, no, I'm going to use it to make a poster. because there's certain things about the settings in a lot of these that just make it better for posters. So we're going to go down. I'm looking for a specific one. Digital backgrounds, that's new, and that's pretty cool that they have digital backgrounds. And also, you don't have to log in to see these brand items. But if you were to publish something like this, as though you were part of UNO and you aren't, they probably get a little bit annoyed about this, but this is what I'm looking for. So this is a research presentation. We're going to choose the smallest one, and it is now downloading to my computer. And I believe, so this is what's really cool. It's downloaded here. This is specific to Chrome, not the other browsers. Have that template. Ooh. Sorry, my chat window is there, but you can't see it. I can now drag this, and we're actually just going to put it in the slides folder. And now it's uploading. You don't ever have to know where it actually went on your computer. You should clean up your computer files, but it's pretty convenient, and it might take a bit to do that. And then I was going to download another one, which was the PowerPoint template. One thing to note is sometimes when you put PowerPoint templates into Google Slides, sometimes they won't work correctly. I'm fairly certain that this will be fine though. So we're gonna put this up in here too. And I don't think that preview is correct. Ooh. So it's gonna give some little things. So this is actually a preview of this. This is not the same as actually editing it, but we can click open with Google Slides and now we can edit it. So this is not what your flash drive can typically do. And it will edit it to the best of its ability, but there might be a few formatting things that break or don't function properly when you open them in Google Slides, because there are features in PowerPoint that do not exist in Google. But I know they've tried to optimize some of those things, and they may change. Now you can use. This has actually always been a thing, but they've just changed how you do it. So they used to make it when you opened a file in Google Apps, it created a duplicate of it that was in the converted file format. They now let you directly edit it. So that's sort of the difference, but functionally it's the same. So this is a research presentation. I'm not going to teach you how to make research presentations. That's not what I'm showing this is for, but it's a poster. This is a poster. People make research posters like this all the time, and then they get them printed. And this is usually how you actually deliver the format. You can do a PDF or an image, but a lot of times when you're printing posters, they actually just give a PowerPoint file. Fun fact. And they just print really well. And with PDFs, there's usually like embedded things with the images, with posters. It just works really well. So this is a really cool thing you can do. And you can get different file types or not file types, sorry. It can probably do some other file types other than PowerPoint. What I meant by that is you can do other paper types, other paper sizes, or just screen sizes and get those customized. So this is one of the most useful features. Honestly, I probably made, as far as my experience in PowerPoint and Google Slides, about half of it is just making posters like this, making like one screen presentations that are not even full PowerPoints. So this is a really useful side of PowerPoint and Google Slides. For this, I think all the settings that come in like formatting on the screen are the same. I think the main differences are the availability of like animations and tools for presentation. I think Google Slides is slightly more limited on your presentation options compared to Keynote or PowerPoint. The actual editing, I believe, is almost about the same. I've at least never come across a major difference. Are they showing gene editing? They are showing gene editing. That's weird. Okay. And let me pull up the chat again because my chat window disappeared, because I want to see if anyone has... Oh, my chat window was behind me. So I don't have any new chats. Those were sort of the main things I wanted to go over. And I wanted to ask for any of you who are still here, if there's anything you want me to go over again, clarify further. I can also answer questions about Google Slides or Google Drive, Google Apps in general. You can also just ask any questions. I'm just available right now. So we're scheduled to end by 3, but we can still do some other things if you all would like to. So if you have any questions, please submit them. I also have my Facebook open for the one person who is on it. But on Facebook, you're welcome to also comment on there and ask a question. You can also ask questions through the Q&A. So what are some of the other templates available? So yeah, so templates available is actually going to be basically limitless. And what I mean by that is you can import any template. So I'm going to go into new and I'm going to click Google Slides. Actually, I just remembered when you do that, it skips the template. So let me go back. So new, and then I'm going to do this. So I'm mousing over, I'm not clicking this. I'm going to click from a template. So now it's going to show you all of Google's templates. Now, if you create a template, which I can't remember the process for it recognizing a template, but you can just create duplicates of something and that'll also work. But these are all of the Google templates that they sort of show. And this is another example of a printed item. This is not specifically for a presentation. This is meant for a print. So those are some of those templates. But let's say you want to get a template online like I did from UNO's website, or I want to look up like fancy PowerPoint template. Now I'm gonna double check the website. I look at Slides Carnival, sounds fun. And Jeopardy, or it says this says Geoparty. So go to preview and download. Oh, this site has an option to get it as a Google Slides theme specifically. Yep, and now I have an option to use template. So that's what I mean by it's infinite. There just may not be the same exact templates as PowerPoint, but you can actually import PowerPoint files and it will try to approximate the template. But there might be certain things that just don't import, like really advanced animations, word arts, etc. Or if you have a word art, I believe what happens to word art when you import it into Google is it turns it into an image file rather than a word art file. Okay, so yeah, this is a random template I just got from the internet, and I do not know the logistics of how you present this little Jeopardy template, but it's funny. So yeah, you can put any template on here. There's not actually a limitation to finding templates. I would definitely recommend not having these glossy templates. I really think minimalism is a better look. I also think like if you're actually doing a presentation, you should be pretty limited to what's on the screen. You don't want to put like paragraphs. Really, you should never have a paragraph on a PowerPoint unless it's like one quote on the entire screen. That's really the most you should ever have as far as the paragraph. You should have small, not even full sentences. You should have like statements that are not full sentences, that are really just like, here's a concept and I'm going to explain it in person. That's how you should really do most of your PowerPoints. It's a lot more effective. It makes the PowerPoint less noisy, because when you're doing a presentation, the PowerPoint is a visual aid, so it's complementary to your presentation. It's not like you're not complementary to the PowerPoint. That would sort of defeat your purpose of even being there beyond clicking through it. So that would be my recommendation. And my chat has disappeared again, but I can get it. Okay, so I'm not seeing any other questions. Do any of our other attendees, so we have about 11 attendees, have any questions they wanted to ask? I'll probably leave it for a minute or two just to see if any of you have a last minute question. My moderator just posted sort of our farewell message where we talk about some of our social media and other things. If you have additional questions, you should really go to gsuite.org. So how do you present your slide presentation remotely like you are doing today? Give me just a moment and I will answer that. That's actually a very good question. So on our website, if you have more questions, you can click this "We Are Here" and then type your question. This will only work during GSpace's digitally open hours, which is the same hours, or just physical location is not open at the moment until we reopen, which is a TBA date. You can also send a message to hello@GSpace, and you can send that anytime and we'll get you a response. So how do you present your slide presentation remotely like I'm doing today? So we're using Zoom. So likely on your screen in the bottom right corner, you should see a little watermark that says Zoom, and I believe, let me get the mouse, it's over here-ish. So basically we're using Zoom, and it's not showing my PowerPoint specifically, it's actually showing my whole desktop. And we've wanted to do a Zoom Basics webinar, but there's a logistical issue. So I actually have all these little options that pop up on my desktop that you all cannot see. We would love to do a webinar where we can like show you these options, what they look like, because it would be useful for some folks. We haven't found a way to do that yet, unfortunately. But maybe one day. There's also some other things where people record their screen. I think if you recorded your screen, it would also show this. So I actually have a bunch more windows open that you just cannot see. If you see me click at something and struggle with it, it's because there's another window there that you're not aware of. So yeah, we use Zoom, but there are some other options out there for like recording your screen and doing a live webinar with it. I would say with a PowerPoint, so this video will always be there unless I turn off my video, but I can also just share the PowerPoint, and it's a little bit different, and I can't show the entirety of how it looks when you do that. So if oh, that is not the screen I thought it was. So we are going to go back to our wedding, which is actually the GSpace Summer Kickoff. Please go check it out, especially if there are kiddos. We also have our GSpace Summer Passport. I don't know if it's live on our site yet, but I've seen it. It's pretty neat. This is not the same thing, but it's okay. So I'm gonna click View, Present. And now I'm gonna do something that you're not gonna be able to see me doing. So I'm gonna click, and then I can actually share a separate screen. It's not gonna look very different. So now on my computer, I can see my whole desktop except this presentation screen. And this is actually off in the distance somewhere that I can't see, unfortunately. So, but I believe on my computer, I can get to it. So this is one thing. If we can find someone who knows how to show the Zoom side of it, because again, you can't see any of my Zoom side, and I would love to like show you how I'm doing that. But basically the difference was I shared the Chrome window to present that item rather than the desktop, which I was showing before. So I'm gonna go back to my desktop. There it is. And we're just gonna click out of that. So I'm now back to sharing my desktop, and Zoom tries to make this seamless. There is something that happens to the window when someone shares a different item. So are there any last minute questions that you wanna ask on Zoom? Anyone can ask a question. Otherwise, I think we'll probably close in a bit. Someone said, thank you so much. We love helping you all. And we know that like, part of the reason why I wanted to do Google Slides and Google Docs is it's free. You can do it from any device, including a phone, which I was not able to share today. So basically the only thing to know for a phone is you have to download an app that's separate from Google Drive. So it's not all on one thing. You actually have to download like the app that says Slides, app that says Docs, and you can do almost all the same things from your phone. It just might be a little more finicky because you're working with a smaller touchscreen. And then I did see a Q&A popped up. Is Google Group Meeting the same as Zoom? Absolutely not. So we actually use Google Meet for our staff meetings if we're doing one-on-ones, and it's pretty different. The general concept of it is the same, except Google Meet is not optimized for webinars. So if you're wanting to present to a lot of people, Google Meet is not good for that. I would recommend Zoom or seeing if there's like another item out there that sort of does a similar thing. But Google Meet is better for one-on-ones. The reason we use that is basically we don't want to use Zoom for our meetings because we have webinars that we're doing. We're usually doing about 2 to 3 webinars a day for the most part. So we really can't have meetings happening at the same time because the account gets a little squirrely about it. So we just only use Zoom for our webinars, and then our meetings, we actually use Google Meet, which is fine. Some of the presentation stuff is not as expansive, but it's not necessarily harder to do. It's just a very different piece of software. And there's some other things. So there's also stuff like Twitch. There's also streaming software. So if you type in streaming software, you can find some options for that. There's some free ones. I'm trying to remember. I want to say one of them is called like OpenCast or something like that. But all of them will let you share your computer screen. That's something that just every one of these will do. So XSplit, I've heard a lot about. OBS Studio, yeah. OBS Studio, I've heard a lot about. So these are definitely some things I would just look at, see what works. And honestly, there's going to be a lot of YouTubers who review these, so you can get recommendations there for what works best for you. And I'm going to say something. It's not actually controversial, but no one's talking about it. Zoom is not actually the best option for everyone. It's a really good option for us right now, and we've gotten really used to using Zoom because Zoom is a little more optimized for an educational route than some of the other ones are, because a lot of the streaming ones are meant more for engagement. So that's one thing, is Zoom is not as good for facilitating engagement, but things like Twitch is very good at sort of managing engagement with your streams. Zoom, not so much, but Zoom is a lot better for like educational webinars, things like that, and that's really what Zoom's used for. So I would say, like, just because Zoom is really popular right now does not mean it's the best option for what you're doing. So you need to find the software that works best for you, that's easy for you, and look at some of those things. And maybe in the future, we might have some folks who talk about those streaming softwares and stuff like that. What do you recommend for someone that hardly know anything about Google Drive? Yes. So what I recommend, we might actually have a webinar that we do at some point that just sort of introduces Google Drive separate from any of these apps. And it might be me presenting it, might be someone else. We haven't figured any of those things out. But it may also not be in June that we have this. It may be a little bit later, but we'll see what happens. So, but I can answer some basic questions about Google Drive right now. We still have some time to do it if you all would like me to answer those questions. But the main things is if you've ever used a Dropbox or a flash drive or just a folder on your computer, it's going to work mostly the same way, except PowerPoint files, doc files, Excel files, and their equivalents, as in sheets, docs, and slides, will actually work the same. So if you had a specific question about Google Drive, like a functionality or navigating it, you can ask that now, or you can ask it by going to our website using that little chat feature that's available in the bottom right corner, or emailing hello@DoSpace. And we might be able to actually connect you with some more directed help if you want to do that. So that's something I might recommend for you. So how do you change a Google Doc to PDF? So I'm going to show it in slides, but it's actually the exact same because this is our Intro to Google Doc or Intro to Google Slides webinar. Sorry, my brain's a little twisted. So our Intro to Google Docs webinar is actually already on YouTube. So definitely feel free to check that out and find some of those features there. So if you go to File, and this works in Sheets, this works in Slides, this works in Docs, it's all the same. You go to File, Download, and then you'll actually have an option to download it as a PDF. Now, I believe with Slides, there's going to be some extra options here compared to Google Docs, or it just downloaded it. I'm curious. Yep, so it just made every slide its own page in this, and this is actually what you want. So that's the entirety of it. There's no like mystical conversion process. It's just you download it as that file. Because when it's up here on the internet, it's not actually a file. It's hosted on the internet here. Once you download it, it becomes a physical file that you can put on a flash drive or something. And they have all these options. I would honestly recommend when you're downloading it to stick to the Microsoft or images or PDFs. Stay away from these open source formats unless you have experience using the software that use those formats, because those formats are a little bit tricky and they're very squirrely. So I definitely would only recommend using these formats if you already know how to use them. So the person who was asking about learning more about Google Drive just want to know how to navigate it. So what I would really recommend is going to our website, gspace.org, going to the bottom right, clicking the little pop-up and asking on there, or emailing hello@gspace.org. And that actually applies for anyone who's looking for help, either now or in the future. So I think we're actually going to start ending our webinar. So give me just a moment. And I hope everyone's had a good learning experience. This wasn't as like in depth as the Google Docs, but I don't feel like it needed to be. But yeah, if anyone has additional questions, please ask us. We definitely want to be as helpful as we can. And let's see. I am going to mute myself and stop the video. It may be a bit until the broadcast ends, but you are welcome to leave.